Okay, let's unpack this. It is Monday, February 9th, 2026. And if you've been anywhere near a tech circle or, I don't know, a coffee shop with good Wi-Fi,
Or just online, really.
or just scrolling X, honestly, you've heard the term. It is absolutely unavoidable. Vibe coding.
It's the buzzword of the moment. You really can't escape it.
And I get it. I really, really do. The
Yeah.
promise is, I mean, it's intoxicating, isn't it?
Oh, total.
You open up your IDE, you type in plain English, hey, build me a dashboard that tracks my caffeine intake. And, I don't know, correlates it with the S&P 500.
Yeah, I'm booming.
And boom, 30 seconds later, you have a React app. It actually renders. It looks distinct. The vibe is, well, it's immaculate.
It feels like we finally hit that sci-fi future we were promised. That whole barrier between I have an idea and I have a working app is just, evaporated. It's pure dopamine.
Exactly. But, and there's always a but on this show. That's kind of why we're here. We are starting to see the cracks. We're seeing what the sources are calling the morning after the magic trick.
The hangover.
The hangover. Because eventually, that high wears off. You wake up, you look at your repo, and you just realize you have no idea how any of this actually works.
And it is a nasty one, because what happens when you need to change something? Or, what happens when it breaks?
And that's where this phrase comes in that the sources use, technical debt at warp speed. Which, I mean, that is a terrifying phrase.
It should be. I mean, think about old school technical debt. You wrote some code, you took a shortcut, you made a mental note, I'll fix this later.
Right. You knew where the bodies were buried because you dug the grave.
You dug the graves. With vibe coding, you didn't dig anything, the AI did. You have thousands of lines of code generated in seconds, focusing only on does it look right and does it run?
It's all about prioritizing intent over structure.
Precisely. And that's the trap, because software development isn't just about that first 5 minutes of creation. It's about the next 5 years of maintenance. So if you've just generated this massive sprawling code base based on a vibe, and you haven't looked at the architecture or the security, you haven't built an app. You've built a house of cards.
So, okay, we aren't just here to doom scroll about broken code today. There is a solution on the table. The sources we're diving into are introducing a new concept, a new discipline, really. They call it vibe engineering.
Vibe engineering. I really like that term. It frames the whole problem perfectly.
It is catchy. So what does it actually mean? The sources define it as the Goldilocks zone of modern development.
Right. And it's not about rejecting the magic. We're not saying go back to writing every semicolon by hand.
No, that ship has sailed.
That ship has sailed. And good riddance, frankly. But it's also not about blindly trusting the magic. Vibe engineering is this intentional blend. It takes that incredible prototyping speed of vibe coding, the agility, and it forces it to shake hands with, rigorous traditional engineering principles.
So we're talking about code review, testing, system architecture, all the boring stuff that actually keeps the lights on.
Exactly. It's about moving from the question, does it work, to the much, much more important question, will it break if I look at it wrong?
Or will it break if 10,000 people look at it all at once?
Scalability, security, reliability, all the things the vibe just kind of ignores.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We're going to figure out how to get from that magic phase to the maintenance phase without, losing your mind. We're going to look at how to take that vibed out prototype and actually make it survive in the wild.
And we have some really specific tools for this. It's not just theory.
Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts then. The source material has this fascinating comparison chart breaking down the anatomy of this new workflow. It pits the vibe against the engineering.
And this contrast is it's essential for understanding where we are right now. So on one side, you got the vibe. This is all about agility. The tools are natural language prompts and, LLMs.
Right. And the focus is on intent, UI, UX. The big question is, does it feel right? It's very visceral, very immediate.
Yes. But then you look at the other column, the engineering. And this represents stability. The tools here are not prompts. They're linters, compilers, debuggers. And the focus just totally shifts. It becomes about security, scalability, handling edge cases.
And the feedback loop changes too.
Oh.
In the vibe phase, the feedback is, does it look cool? In the engineering phase, it's, does it pass the test suite?
And that is the crucial disconnect we're seeing. People are getting stuck in that first column. They're getting the output, which the chart calls high-level features and logic, but they aren't taking that next step to get to refactored, modular, documented code.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting for me. The sources talk about this major shift in the role of the developer. And I just love this analogy. It says, the developer shifts from being a writer to an editor-in-chief.
That is such a profound shift. I mean, think about how we used to code. You were the writer. You were typing the syntax, worrying about where the brackets went.
Right.
Now the AI is the writer. It's generating all the raw text. Your job isn't to type anymore, it's to verify.
So you're not spell checking. You're fact checking.
You're fact-checking the logic. You're looking for plot holes. You are the editor, making sure the story actually makes sense and doesn't have, I don't know, gaping security vulnerabilities. You're the adult in the room.
But why is this blend so necessary? I mean, why can't we just vibe our way to the finish line? The AI is getting smarter every day, right?
It comes back to that phrase you mentioned, technical debt at warp speed. It's all about volume.
Yeah, unpack that for me. Why warp speed?
Well, because an AI can generate thousands of lines of code in seconds. In the old days, if you wrote bad code, you did it at human speed.
You could only mess up so much in a single day.
Exactly. Now, you can generate a massive, unmaintainable monolith before you've even finished your morning coffee. Traditional manual review it can't keep up with that volume. It's impossible.
So if manual review is dead, or at least way too slow, what do?
We fight fire with fire. And that's the core insight of vibe engineering. You need to use AI to help harden the code, not just to write it in the first place.
Okay, so let's move into the next part here, the core philosophy and the stack. The philosophy is basically start with the vibe to find the solution quickly, then apply engineering to make sure that solution doesn't break tomorrow.
It's a move from optimizing for speed to optimizing for reliability, a two-step process, and you can't skip that second step.
And the sources lay out a vibe engineering stack. It's not just a concept, it's an actual tool set. They mention tools like Cursor or Windsurf for iterative prompting.
Right, so those are your tools for building the core logic. That's the creation phase. But then you have rigorous verification. This is your CI/CD pipelines, your automated testing.
And then there are refinement layers. I like this idea. It's about prompting the AI specifically to, say, refactor for readability or optimize for memory. Is it like sending the draft back to the writer with very specific notes?
Exactly. But the key insight here, the thing that really stood out to me in all the research, is this concept of automated guardrails.
Yes. This blew my mind. Tell us about that.
It's the idea of using the AI to generate unit tests for the very code it just finished writing.
That feels a bit like Inception or something. Or maybe asking a student to grade their own homework.
It does sound risky, doesn't it? But here's the nuance. LLMs are often much better at verification than they are at generation.
Okay.
So if you ask it to generate a function, it might hallucinate, it might get lazy, but if you give it the function it just wrote and say, now write a test case that breaks this, it completely switches context. It becomes a critic.
Huh. So you're using the AI's critical reasoning capabilities against its own creative output.
Correct. You're not just asking for the function. You're asking for the function and the proof that it works. It creates this self-correction loop that is just incredibly powerful.
Okay, I want to get to the part that I think our listeners are going to find the most useful right away, the actionable advice. The source material gives these specific vibe-to-ing prompts. These are the actual things you can type into an LLM to bridge that gap we've been talking about.
These prompts are gold. They basically operationalize that whole editor-in-chief role.
Let's go through them. The first one is called the architecture review.
Right, this is your high-level check. The prompt is, I have this functional prototype. Act as a staff engineer and review this code for architectural flaws. Suggest 3 refactors to improve modularity and maintainability while keeping the public API identical.
Act as a staff engineer. Does that persona part really matter that much?
Hugely. It matters so much. If you just say review this code, the AI might fix a typo or add a comment. When you say staff engineer, you're signaling a very specific context. You're telling the model to access patterns associated with high-level system design, trade-offs, and long-term maintenance.
It stops looking at syntax and starts looking at structure.
Exactly. And notice that constraint at the end. Keep the public API identical.
Right.
That's the guardrail. You're saying, I like what the app does, don't change the behavior, just clean up the mess inside. You want the black box to work the same, but you want the wiring inside to be organized, not a tangled mess of Christmas lights.
Okay, prompt number 2, the security hardening.
This one is just non-negotiable. The prompt is, review this code for OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities, specifically focusing on SQL injection, XSS, and broken access control. Rewrite the vulnerable sections with production-grade patterns.
Whoa. That is getting specific. SQL injection, XSS. Why do you have to be that specific? Can't you just say, make it secure?
Make it secure is